Marty. Let me tell you a quick story about Hogan, which sort of exemplifies him at his best. Every tournament I saw him at, and if I got a chance to talk to him, I'd ask him the same question. Who are you playing in the semis, Marty? His answer was always the same. Nobody, absolutely nobody. So when you talk about great players, here he is. I'd also like to say that my favorite racquetball player of all time is here today, Cliff Swain. And he is a guy that played every single point with his heart and his soul just out on his sleeve, and he never let a single player score a single point. You had to earn everything, and that's what I felt was what I could do. The guys that were super, super talented like Hogan could walk around the court and play, but the rest of us relied on competition. And I remember the first time that I was invited by Barry Wallace to come out to the big courts at Orange Coast. This is a mini court compared to Orange Coast College. And I decided to play doubles and singles. It's not like Hogan said, for the good of the game, I wanted some outdoor scalps on my pony. So I figured, you know, how am I going to lose to these outdoor guys? I'd never heard of any of them. And I was like the lead player in the league at that point. So I came out to Orange Coast 2 weeks before, and I brought with me my doubles partner, the eminent Dr. Bud Muehlheisen, who is this phenom in the sport. And we saw a couple of guys playing, and I went over and invited them to a quick game of doubles. Well, after they kicked the living shit out of us, I turned to Muehlheisen, and I just looked at him, and he turned a whiter shade of pale. And so we went over to talk to these guys to at least say, we'll see you in the tournament. And they go, I don't think so, we're in the C's. So it was a rude awakening when we got here. Now, I will say the sport's changed a little bit since then. That court was huge. There was no quadrant serving, and there was no pussy lines going up the side to keep the serve from going. That's right. So, and Barry Wallace, who undoubtedly will be inducted into the Hall of Fame soon, he actually should have been inducted before me, but that's tough shit, isn't it? So what ended up happening is Wallace was the tournament director. He was the promoter. He was the executive director of the athletic department at Orange Coast. He was a Greek god. He was totally in control of the match. So I'm trying to get all these indoor players to come out and play. So Bill Schmidtke and Steve Keeley were two of the top players. In fact, Schmidtke had won the indoor nationals a month or so before the tournament. So I invited them up. Up they come. They ran into traffic. In they come, and Barry Wallace talks to Schmidtke and says, you're down 10 points. And Schmidtke goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'm the tournament director, and we play a point of a minute if you're late. So he goes, well, who am I playing? He goes, me. Then he said, and you've lost the toss. And he started to serve the ball. And it was really tough. And I'll tell you one thing those three-wall players had at that time. It was a really interesting tournament because none of us had ever seen the outdoor players. To my knowledge, they had never seen us. So everybody thought they were going to win and dominate in 74. Everybody thought they had a chance. The true facts are that 80% of the indoor players just got slaughtered in game one because of three things. These outdoor guys with those small rackets and the slower ball could put the ball out the door with a high Z serve over here, and it would go out into the adjoining court where there were other hackers swinging their rackets. And off the same motion, they would serve the ball back in that crack just before it goes out the door back here. And I had the experience myself in the first tournament. I was down 19-0 to a guy with a baseball hat on backwards named Rick. And yeah, Kostler. He was faster than shit, and he was looking at me with a smirk. So what I did was, he served from right here. I came up right behind him, and I gave him fair warning. Don't serve that Z serve again. And he goes, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, your head apparently is about right where I'm going to be cutting the ball off if you do. So then, of course, I'm leaving the whole left side of the court open, but you have to know your part of playing poker is knowing how to look at a player and know what they're going to do. I knew he was not going to take any shit from an indoor player, and he was going to serve that Z. Now, it's important for me to explain because of what I'm going to ask you later on. I tried only to hit him with the strings of the racket so that he wouldn't be hit with the frame. But what happened is his hat, his head, and the ball all moved toward the front wall, and that was the last Z serve I saw in that match, which I won 21-19. Now that's a true story, and Barry Wallace is the same thing. When I played Wallace in '75, this guy was an incredible player, and he micromanaged the tournament for the benefit of the outdoor players. The outdoor players were refereeing. Guess what happened? Our balls were out and their balls were in. He also would schedule every match with me with the sun cresting the wall so that when they threw up the lob, I'm staggering around like this. So I play him in the finals, and I told him, I said, Barry, don't play me without a shirt on. Apparently, he didn't understand what that meant, but every time I ripped him, which is quite an art in outdoor, because I had to swing with him over here, and if I miss him, I lose a point. But I was the only one accurate enough and treacherous enough to hit people in outdoor when I had to hit into the open court. So I was ripping him regularly. His little kids were in the stands, and they would cry out when each ball bounced off of him. Barry himself looked at me with an FU look each time, but the kids were screaming to such an extent that I almost got misty. Well, anyway, he got even. He got even with me because when he got his chance to hit, he buried the racket in my side. We've got a film of this deal. I went down like a sack of potatoes and had to hang on to win the match. Hank Marcus was there in '74 after the doubles match with Muehlheisen and me versus him in Wetzel. They threw their rackets over the wall at Orange Coast College after the end of the match. That's what I'm talking about. This was the old days, and it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Now, we have something that's happening today that really is important to me in my life. I'm the first player to be awarded both the Indoor Hall of Fame and the Outdoor Hall of Fame. I wanted you guys to get to watch. If we have do we have a plaque for the outdoor? Let's do this afterward, but we have both plaques here for the first time. Now, there are some people in my rearview mirror who aspire to having Hall of Fame ratings in both sports. One of them's right here, Marty Hogan. Now, and another one's Cliff Swain, and then Rocky. Rocky, to me, is a shoe-in for Hall of Fame in both sports, but it's going to be several years hence. So the only way that I think we can have a tiebreaker, on this where I can separate myself from these bitches would be, for years, and Marty will vouch for this, I have always referred to myself as the people's champion, the holder of all titles and the people's champion. What I need is some help from you guys to keep these guys in my rearview mirror. What I need is an endorsement for you to the powers that be, like Hank or Scott Winters or otherwise, to issue me right now or in the near future the Lifetime Sportsmanship Award. Any questions?
We're stretching there, baby.
Thank you very much for the 15 years.
Thank you very much. Let's give him another round of applause, guys. This is amazing.